Lisa.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
You're not nervous, right?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
I'm doing fine.
So, did you grow up in Georgetown or you?
I didn't. I grew up in Boxford,
Mm-hmm.
but my parents bought this building when I was 12. So I was here more than Boxford probably because they worked 7 days a week, and I was here. Plus had a studio within the building. Probably around 18. I started
Wow.
having a studio here.
So,
Yeah.
when was that? Well, you don't want to get into it. That's
No,
okay.
it's fine. It's fine. I just doing the math. Let's
Okay,
see.
yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
So I started when I was 16 though, in high school. So I was a sophomore in high school, and then I would say right around 18 years old, I started really doing it more professionally.
Ah.
Yeah. So.
So,
it's been
have
a long
you
time.
always been into making jewelry, or were you an artist?
So I was an artist before, and really planned on becoming a sculptor.
Oh.
Because I was making small sculptures, painting a bit, and then my father, when I asked to go to art school, came up with the idea of being a jeweler. So naturally I started to think about it, and you're 16 and you're thinking, I don't want to do what my parents tell me, but it was really a logical transition because I collected stones and shells and even small metal objects and loved fashion, and it was just one of those things that really was, I can't believe I didn't come up with it because it was so evident that that's really the
Do you
direction.
see your little collections, like little metals and stones, as like they have feelings? And if you
Yeah,
throw
they're-
it away, you're gonna feel bad?
Yeah, there is definitely something that connects me to those things, and I do still get attached to certain stones. I won't use them in the piece of jewelry for years because I'm so attached to the small object. I mean, I have a few pieces that I covet, and recently made one of them into a piece of jewelry for myself. So that was good.
So the reason you got into the business of Georgetown is because your parents bought this building.
Yes, so they bought this building and they had Scala's Antiques here. So it's been 40 years that we've been in town.
Wow.
40 years. It is pretty crazy.
Wow.
So that gives you an idea of how old I am.
Okay, yeah. Everybody's doing the math now.
Yes, they are. They are.
And then, did you have formal education?
I did. So I took private lessons in high school. So that's how my father convinced me not to be a sculptor, to be a jeweler. And then I did go to Maine College of Art for jewelry and metalsmithing with a major in, so a BFA in jewelry and metalsmithing.
So what is metals smithing?
So metalsmithing is essentially taking precious and semi-precious sheet metal and wire and cutting it out, forming it, so you're hammering it into a different form, you're soldering it together, you're creating settings for the stones to be in. So you're really taking just a flat sheet and a wire and you're just transforming them into another. So that's more fabrication. And then the other piece of that is wax carving. So you carve little sculptures, see I got it in there, little sculptures out of wax, and then you cast them into metal. And then you can add settings for stones and other parts of it. But that's like truly sculptural form because you're starting from a block or a sheet of wax.
So your inspirations for your designs, where do they come from?
I would say most of my inspiration comes from nature. Definitely natural stones is probably the top of the list, but definitely leaves and just anything in nature, a lot from the ocean. And then without even realizing it, I think I had a huge influence from my family's antiques business. People have actually remarked that, your style has an Art Deco feel or an Art Nouveau feel. So without me even realizing that I have influences from all these wonderful antique pieces, it just naturally kind of flows in with that.
Where do you see the trend of jewelry going? Do you think more people are wearing jewelry, or is it becoming more bizarre? Is it becoming more...
It's really funny because the trend is almost polar opposites right now. So you're seeing huge statement pieces, almost like something that Cleopatra would wear, all the way down to the most minimalistic, tiniest little thin chain with a tiny little bar on it. So it's really changing, but for me, I'm excited because I tend to design at both ends. And finally, gold is coming back. I have to tell you, I've been trying to convince people. This area tends to be more silver. I don't know, but I'm starting to see the gold come back too. So I'm really starting to create stuff that in gold tones and using other mixed metals like copper and brass. So that's been great.
Sorry.
That's
Okay. You're going to show us how you.
Yeah, I'll
jewelry.
show you my studio, and
Okay.
even, I can even kind of show you a little bit if you
Yeah.
want. I can show you how I saw and do that kind of thing.
So now, where do you display anywhere else other than?
I do. I display at 15 other galleries throughout New Hampshire, a couple in Maine, and then mostly through Massachusetts. We're looking into getting me across the country again. Earlier in my 20s, I had things in California and New York and a bunch of different places. So I'm really working on what I want to focus on, which is my one-of-a-kind stuff, and getting it into galleries probably across the country, which is a little easier now because now you have online
Right.
access. So you can reach out to the world, so
Yep.
right now I'm putting in place websites and different things to promote
Do you have a
that.
following?
I do have a little bit of a following. It's kind of funny. I don't think of it like that. A lot of the people who come in here, we become friends. So it's a very, very personal connection, and I think that's probably my leading factor to keep going with this. When you get that feedback, and I put a lot of healing stones into my things and a lot of meaning into what I make, and people really love that piece. And I think just to even have the social piece. They come in, what are your new designs, what are you doing right now, and I just become really good friends with a lot of my customers. So there's, online I do have a little bit of a following. It's kind of funny. I don't think of myself like that at all, but it's kind of nice.
Rockstar jewelry.
In Georgetown, yes. Maybe 2 towns over. Well, maybe. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, so that's been great. It's been great. I get amazing support from people in town and just family and friends. Just keeps me going.
Now, do you find yourself obsessed with creating jewelry? Like, are you able to stop at like a 9 to 5 and go home?
I think obsessed is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my designs pretty much start from a drawing, and a lot of times I have to get up out of bed, put a drawing down, put some notes down. I mean, everything I look at its form, its color, its texture. I mean, I'm really blessed with that. Everything I look at, I find interesting and creative, but yeah, no, I'm pretty obsessed. I don't think I shut it off. It is a good thing. I do take a day off a week, finally, after 25 years. But I'm always thinking. I'm always creating in my head, but it comes pretty naturally. So that's one thing that I talk to other artists, and some say it does, some say no, it does not come this easily.
Yeah.
So I'm just very lucky. There's more designs in my head than time to make them all.
Are you one of those people that when you're driving down the street and you see like a form or a design?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Trees right now. It's been for a few years. I just get locked into these beautiful wavy forms and how they layer, and just, I don't know, trees right now I definitely need and I'm trying to incorporate some of the texture from the trees, and it would be subtle. You wouldn't look at it and say, oh, that's bark. But I really, right now, the tree branches and the textures, I'm a little, yes, that is my new side obsession. Yeah.
Like looking at a tile on the floor, you can see
Oh,
a face.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that obsession.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Why don't we head to your studio, and you can demonstrate some of your techniques and your skills,
All right.
and we'll meet you down there.
All right, sounds great. So what I'm doing right now is I am starting to cut out one of my Tree of Life pieces, and it starts with a drawing, and and then we apply it to a sheet of metal. This happens to be a piece of brass. And then with a fine, very fine saw blade, we cut out each branch. And we'll even back it up and make the branches just a little irregular like they really are in nature. Widen them, add little side branches. And then at the end, once we have our tree, we'll actually bring it so it's forming it. I don't know if you... Okay, so my next step for our trees is to bring it into forming. So forming and texturing is a lot of times part of what we do. I mean, this is literally a scrap piece of metal, but it just gives you, it starts to give it some 3-dimension and form. So the tree really comes alive when you do this. Sometimes we will even put texture on the metal. So you almost see like little dappled leaves. So you can kind of see the little hammer marks that look a little bit like leaves. There. So that's, yeah.
Excellent. So that's what you
So
do all
just-
day.
I do.
All right.
A little more involved sometimes.